I was able to stack up 42,400 points for destroy arc enemies in the swamp. The strategy here is simple, and honestly, it's not one of my favorites for the trial system, but what you're going to have to do to prepare for this challenge is farm some snitch scanners. The best place I've found to farm snitch scanners is Locked Gate. I generally use the overlooked air shaft because you can see almost every snitch on the map from this location. Take with you a renegade and some seeker grenades, and it makes it very easy to farm snitches quick. In under 30 minutes on the lock gate, I walked away with 19 total snitch scanners, so you can farm up really fast at this location. The easiest way to farm the snitches that I have found is just shooting them once with the renegade and then using the seeker grenades once they get close. A single shot from the renegade and a single seeker grenade is enough damage to take one out, which makes it very cost effective for both of your weapons and lets you farm them quickly. I recommend getting 24 total snitch scanners or 2 full rows of your bag. Now for your equipment in general, normally I recommend wolf packs here, but because of the high cost of farming wolf packs, I'm actually going to change up the strategy a bit this time. Instead of the wolf packs, I brought a ton more Hullcracker rounds and just relied on the Hullcracker to eliminate the snitch scanners when I threw them in during the match. This actually ended up working out way better. It allowed me to never hit an instance where the snitch scanner was failing to call, and I was able to farm up a ton of points throughout the entire match by using this method. You're also going to want to bring a weapon that you like for the smaller enemies like fireballs, pops, ticks, and occasionally, if you're out of a Hullcracker, the wasps, the hornets, and even the fireflies. Beyond that, bring a shield that you're comfortable with and the healing items that you need to sustain damage throughout this challenge. Now the trick to this challenge is understanding that every enemy that you eliminate is going to give you 400 points. This includes the big arc enemies like Bastion, so don't even bother wasting your time on eliminating the Bastion because the points for the time spent is just not worth it. You really want to focus on farming out the smaller enemies and your snitch scanners throughout this match. Once you spawn in, you want to head for the Hydrodomes. The Hydrodomes are the highest potential in terms of your score for this challenge, but keep in mind that the area that applies for this challenge is the entire swamp area. So if you're in the deeper part of the swamp and you're running towards the Hydrodomes, this is a good opportunity to use those snitch scanners as you run to take out those wasps early on and start stacking up that score as you go. When you get to the Hydrodomes, I recommend focusing the little enemies in each of the domes first. You want to try and get the cleanups on all of these eliminations before other raiders make it to the area. That way you start out with all the points possible for the enemies that are there. In terms of priority, always focus the map-based spawns first, and then when there aren't map-based spawns or it's dangerous to fight map-based spawns, as in there's a couple of wasps or hornets flying near a bastion, this is when you should be using your snitch scanners. By spreading your snitch scanners out, it allows you to fully maximize your time in the swamp. I also recommend that you try and space out where you're throwing your snitch scanners. The more bodies that you have go down where you're fighting, the more smoke that's going to be created from the bodies themselves. And the more smoke that's created, the harder it is for you to see the enemies, and the harder it is for the enemies to see you, which can cause them to just float in the air for a long period of time. And sometimes they'll just be stuck in the air, floating around, never really coming down, wasting your valuable time for stacking up more points and eliminations. Previously to the last couple of updates, in solo trials, if you did a bunch of damage to the enemy but somebody else eliminated it, you would not actually get the elimination XP or the trials points that associated to it. As far as I can tell, anybody who does damage to an enemy or destroys an enemy that's shared damage with another solo raider, both players will get the elimination score. So in a trials challenge where the points rewarded is a flat 400 per elimination, this means that both players who were involved in fighting that enemy walk away with a full set of trials points. This is a phenomenal change for the trial system, and I'm really happy to see that this change has come through from Embark because that part has been really tough in solo trials up until this point. Now, in terms of your Hullcracker, you really want to be sure to hit your shots as frequently as possible. It's very easy with the flying enemies to try and fire too soon and then just miss your shots repeatedly. Let alone the Hullcracker itself is one of the most bizarre weapons in terms of hitting targets consistently. I rely on this weapon heavily throughout all of the trials challenges that I do, and I still don't feel comfortable with how it connects with targets half of the time. Additionally, something else I learned during this run is don't fire your Hullcracker when an enemy is right in your face. Turns out the Hullcracker has significant splash damage, and it almost ended my run too soon because of this. So just be careful when you are firing at enemies. Make sure that you have a couple feet in front of you so you can be safe from your own splash damage. Outside of all of that, there really isn't a ton more to this challenge. It is just the process of throwing your snitch scanners, eliminating the enemies as they come in, and then rotating around the Hydrodome to pick up the map-based spawns as they come in. Keep in mind that with more raiders in the area, the less likely enemies are to spawn inside the domes, so just be aware that sometimes roaming around is just going to waste your time. Definitely rely on your situational awareness to know when and when not to push into the Hydrodomes to look for enemies that have respawned. Now the last trick overall is the snitches that are actually on the map themselves. The trick here is that you want to aggro the snitch to you and then let it start to do its alarm to call in reinforcements. You need to time your shot exceptionally well here, because the idea is that you want to eliminate the snitch right as it calls in for its reinforcements. This prevents the snitch from flying up into the air and becoming much more hard to hit, and it allows the enemies to get called in and the snitch to go down. This means you get the 400 points for eliminating a snitch, and then an additional 1200 when you take out the 2 wasps and the hornet that follows. Then, looting the snitch, getting the scanner, and throwing that, you get an additional 2 more wasps to eliminate, giving you 800 points. This means, all told, one single snitch on the map can be worth 2400 points. To put that into perspective, a Rocketeer during the Rocketeer, Leaper, and Bastions trial is worth 2200 points. So a snitch is more valuable than a Rocketeer if you can learn to hit your shot at the right time and eliminate the snitch right as it calls in for reinforcements. It is well worth the patience that it takes to get that done. Either way, even if you eliminate the snitch and it doesn't call in reinforcements, don't forget to go pick up that scanner so you can throw it for the 2 additional wasps that you can still get from that. As time starts to wind down, pay attention to where the extraction is and start heading that way. Head back to Speranza, collect your loot if you haven't already, and watch your score fly up the leaderboard. That's going to be it for me today, y'all. Thanks for watching.